Welcome to the HoCo Cyber Collective Podcast, where community, technology, and stories converge.
Straight from my head. There we go.
You're basically Albert Einstein. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is the HoCo Cyber Collective's end of week meetup. We've got Vivek back. How are you doing, Vivek?
I am doing great.
As he was saying offline, just really busy. Shame on me. I think I still am a little bit backlogged on uploading all the episodes and stuff like that. Um, and I have it on my to-do list to try to use AI to make it more efficient. But of course, I haven't gotten around to doing that either. But how's your week been?
It's been good. Oh, by the way, did you read the article on, I forgot where I saw it. It was on, I think it was on Forbes or something, where investors are starting to ask questions about the returns on AI. Because they're like, well, we put $1 trillion into this, with OpenAI and Anthropic and so on, and so far the
They're standing in
returns
front of a bonfire of cash, and they're like, "So we're still really excited about everything you're doing. Just we have a few questions, about this and how much you're charging for people to watch this cash fire."
Exactly. So they're starting. So there's a few rumblings starting. So, but I really, Meta is coming out, smelling like flowers now because they didn't go down the route of like, all right, let's go with these big gigantic models, just suck up energy and resources and whatnot.
Well, to be fair, they did that with the metaverse. So
Yeah, but I mean the metaverse, everything else prior to AI hasn't like AI and blockchain. Those are the two things that really consume a lot of power to do things, right? But now we're moving towards smaller models that are able to get, performance that's pretty close to what OpenAI does, and I'm sure that'll progress as the months and years go by. So,
that's
yeah.
I gotta say that's music to my ears, and I love again just your insight on that because that's what I've been hoping. I've been the one who's like, stop going to the cloud. It's not the way. On premises has its advantages in certain instances, and then finally it seems that just like you said, being ahead of the game, where people ask like, is it possible to run things in your office? Like, yeah, yeah. How do you know? Uh, You know,
Run things in your office, train your own models, and have your models learn. I think that's all starting to become possible now. I don't know if you heard of Claude Bot. It was
Claude bot.
yeah,
Okay.
Claude Bot. So it's something that you can run locally, and it's an AI agent that'll give you like agentic capabilities on your local machine itself, and it can do coding. It can do all your
Is that the one that you sent me the link to with my other question about the
oh
having a
no, that's a different tool altogether. Claude Bot was just released, I think, recently.
it's funny though that a lot of the concerns about privacy and who owns the data suddenly becomes a lot less thorny if you just bring it back in your office, you're now responsible for securing it, but we've done that before, and in some ways it's easier to do that because you have control.
Yeah, and investors are also starting to catch on because I talked to a lawyer who's at the MIC. So we met him and we were just talking to him about forming the entity and whatnot. And one of the things he said is that, one thing that investors or some investors will ask questions about is, have you turned on privacy mode on whatever coding tool you're using? So people are starting to catch on that, hey, if you don't turn that on, then whatever algorithms you're inventing, you can call them proprietary all you want, but it's already sitting in, Cursor's database or OpenAI's database because you've been copy pasting it in there. So with me, I hand coded the core algorithms of Site Searcher, which is our hard corner, signalized intersection, how to do all that. And I've also turned on privacy mode before I start all this. So I'm fairly confident that, my stuff isn't sitting in AI anywhere, but at the same time, how much can you trust privacy mode on Cursor?
Well, and how would you know? I mean, ask it. Hey, have you it would probably be the same thing where we would just share the privacy terms and conditions that you agreed to. You've read them, haven't you?
Yeah.
And actually that's the thing. It's the whole You read the terms and conditions, didn't you? You own nothing. This is ours. You're just viewing it. You have no claim on anything that you create, which is why when I have a trademark on my, I call it the Cyber Hammer, my logo for Sentinel Forge and the word Sentinel Forge. And I think it's actually sitting right next to me under a pile somewhere. Uh, I had to be very cognizant of the fact that that was generated by a real human being artist, that the rights are mine for what it's worth. Not that I expect anyone to steal it, but a lot of the training data is they're not paying for it, right? Like a lot of the stuff is we just took the internet, we just took the whole thing and copied it and we used that.
Yeah, whatever is available, right? And in fact, I met somebody else also at the MIC who's I know he's on the fourth floor, and I've kind of forgotten his name, but he was asking me an interesting question that, why are you trying to build a, because site search is essentially a proprietary database, right? We're taking data sources that are freely available, and we're sort of calculating these attributes out of them and producing. So we're actually producing new data that we own.
You're a chef that's making something new in a kitchen by taking ingredients that are available, and your intelligence, your know-how is what goes into making this thing that is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but he was asking me the question that, eventually isn't all the data going to live in OpenAI or whatever? Because and he was giving me the example of the Reddit case that happened, right? Where, I think it was Anthropic had scraped all of Reddit's data and used that to train their models, and then
We just did it.
they just did it, and
That's okay, right?
yeah. But then my counterpoint to that is that, oh, well, okay. I mean, in that case, if you're going to expose the data through some certain channels, then you gotta lock those channels behind some kind of a paywall, right? And
Right.
it's like, if they're going to scrape it and do something with it, okay, fine. But at the same time, they don't have access to the algorithms and the code, and we have to rerun these algorithms every couple months or so just to get fresh data in there, because parcel boundaries keep changing, roads keep changing, like the topology keeps changing because you're constructing new things all the time. So
Well, and here's the other problem. As time goes on, how much of the data in Reddit is generated by AIs, and now you're drinking your own bathwater. And that, as I always love to read about, literally drives the models insane if they do that too much. And we started out again, at some point, the internet was pure, it was all humans, but bots and chatbots and stuff is not new. That's been around for a while. So the percentage of human generated content is shrinking. And you're now ingesting AI slop into itself. And it's developing a Habsburg chin with all the incest that's going on. And I don't know how you fix that because it's like you've polluted your farmland almost. You needed this data. And now it's growing weird because you know, you did what you did, and yeah, I don't know how to fix that.
I don't think you can, but I mean, that training has worked well for like the initial part. I'm sure there'll be social media. I'm sure I haven't looked, but I'm sure there are social media companies out there that are sort of set up so that you have to post original content on there, and you can't just put AI slop.
Yeah.
Um, Andy's company did that.
Have you been seeing, and maybe this would be an interest, and I think this might be an interesting angle for you guys to propose, like that your data is human collected, almost like our data is picked fresh from the source, in that, and pitching the fact that a human is actually involved. I'm seeing some YouTube channels that are advertising we don't use AI, and that again becomes, oh, well, this is a human being person talking to me. That's interesting. Like,
Yeah, but then our competitors are already selling themselves as an AI bot, so that's what their UI like. Some of them, we look at Titleman AI, and there's one more that just got acquired recently, Data something. And if you look at their interface, it's basically it looks like OpenAI. You have
Right.
a chat box there, and then you put your prompt in, and then it just does a bunch of stuff. So we will also eventually. Right now, our UI is basically standard SaaS kind of platform where it is
Right.
you go clickety clackety all over the place to get it to work. But eventually, we'll also go down the same path where you'll have an agent that you talk to with whatever you want, and then it'll just go and do the work in the background, just display the results in the map.
And where does it live again? Like
But
where the compute, is it local?
no, I mean, this is all in the cloud right now, but I think eventually I will go local. But with the cloud, the only good thing about the cloud is you get free credits. So,
Well,
we've been hopping
sure.
between Azure free trials, like
They solve
$1,000.
all our problems and it's all free
It's all
for
free
now.
within for now. But they are
What happens when 10,000 customers sign up for the platform?
But they are expensive. I mean, with Azure, and I'm sure there's a cheaper way to do this, but this was the quickest setup I found. But I needed to set up virtual machines that had only private access, so I didn't want to expose it to the internet. Uh,
Right.
and and I had a really hard time doing that because we don't expose it to the internet. And how do you SSH to the machine, right? You have to set that up somehow. And
You
so
have, you have to be on the same network.
yeah, exactly. You have to be
I'm
on.
looking at a machine that I SSH into, and it's you set up an on-premises environment. Again, that's the
Yeah,
old ways.
yeah, exactly. So I'm sure there's a way to set it up in Azure world where it's like, you either whitelist your IP or something like that. I haven't looked into setting that up, but the direction I took was setting up what's called a Bastion host that has public access to the internet, but it's a managed service by Azure. So
Okay.
probably secure, at least Azure secure, And so,
Azure secure.
and then, and then
It's
I
not
have
just secure, be Azure secure.
And then the Bastion has access to the network that the private VMs are running on. So that's my setup right now. That Bastion cost me $20 a month,
Okay.
but it was the easiest thing to set up, and it took like 5 minutes to set it up. I'm sure if I went down the whole networking path and all that, that usually takes me an hour or 2 hours to figure out, and I didn't have the patience for it. So
I will tell this is actually one of those places where someone like me who AI helps a lot, at least with sort of the hand holding of this is how you set these things up. Um, Speaking as someone who was a didn't do the clickety clack, as you said, I'm envious, by the way, of your ability to build the things that you describe. Whereas I can draw a nice little picture. And I can describe what I know works. And I mean, there's a guard tower right in front of me. Again, I could fire up and just give a demo. I know why it works. There is absolutely no way I could have built the underlying individual code for that. And that's why it's so important to have those partnerships because I know my limitations. But listen, if you're looking for memory leaks and segmentation faults, I'm your man.
I will get in touch with you very shortly. I am looking
Is
for.
that important? When it comes to like, oh my God, cloud resources, infinite growth as your memory requirements increase asymptotically. Oh, God. And I think I've read that that's happened where suddenly like a company makes some change, some coding change, which impacts their utilization in a way that they didn't expect, and suddenly their cloud bill goes up like 2,000% instantly. And on a platform that might have required, you can spend a lot of money pretty quick if you know, if you swipe that card, they will allow you to consume. It's a restaurant. You can eat. There's no prices. Well, there's prices on the menu, but don't worry about that. We'll settle up at the end. Um, you were talking about investors. Are they getting into the whole like I seen someone described it as like it's a block fort where it doesn't matter. There's all these little microservices, but then you lift up under this. It's like, what are you running on? We're running on Azure. We're running on AWS. We're running in Google. So you're all the same, and your costs are determined by another company. You do not, you're renting out space in an apartment building you do not own, basically. You've built actually, that's a pretty good, it's a storefront. And I think if you're using AI tools and you're using I'm interested in how these API calls, if that's a profit. I have no idea. Maybe you can say into that. How does, if you want to use like ChatGPT or OpenAI as your LLM for your API calls, how do you pay for that? Can you speak to that? Does that question even make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I've used Claude, which is Anthropic's, and I've accessed via the API. You can basically buy denominations. Starting. I think it starts with $5 and then goes up to any amount. So you just swipe your credit card, put in, say, I put in like $50 initially when I was building the first version of Site Searcher, and yeah, then it just keeps as in when you either write code or you're using the interface to put prompts in there for whatever it is that you want. It just keeps deducting the tokens, and then based on the number of tokens you use, it will. They have price breakdowns, right? So they'll charge you whatever 5 cents per 1,000 tokens or something like that. Um, and the different models that they have, depending on the model that you use. So like the HoCo model is the cheapest, but the results, but it doesn't it has a it has a shorter context window, so you can't really get a whole lot out of it.
Okay.
And But it is cheap. So if you wanted to do something small with it, then you can do that. Then you have Claude. What are the other ones? There's HoCo. I've forgotten the names.
I mean, this is the thing that we live in this is a golden age that it will not be like this for
Yeah.
long, where there's all these options. This reminds me of the wonderful days of the 90s with everything going online and everything. Profitability doesn't matter whatsoever. Your burn rate is what's important because the whole thing is funded by venture capital. Stop me when this sounds familiar. When the music stops. So would you say, are you paying the true cost of the resources that you're using when you make those API calls versus me using Claude as a chatbot that I pay, like I'll use ChatGPT because I get $20 a month. And obviously there's a lot going on under there that costs way more than $20 a month. If I was to do the same thing via an API call, I'd be paying the full amount or
Yeah, and you can see this with, so to give you an example, so I use Cursor for all my coding, right? And everybody's been telling me to switch to Claude because it's super awesome and all that, but Claude Code kind of runs out of tokens very quick. Anyway, just focusing on Cursor, I can see which model it's using under the hood to like give me the coding suggestions, right? And a number of tokens that are being consumed and so on. I'm paying $20 a month for this thing, and it is using Claude Sonnet, right? And on average, my prompts consume like easily like 5,000 to 10,000 tokens of Claude Sonnet. Now, if I were to do that same thing via the API, I would burn through the $50 that I have in a matter of 2 days, right? But my 1 month subscription with Cursor, I've been using Cursor for about 5 months now, right? And I'm using pretty heavily because I'm kind of building this platform right from scratch. So
right.
there's a lot of coding that Cursor does for me. Um, and not once have I hit the limits. And it just costs me $20 a month. So
It's
I know for a fact that the day OpenAI starts charging Cursor for whatever they're doing,
the true
yeah,
value.
the day they run out of whatever credits they have, I'm sure they have a buttload of credits from OpenAI and Microsoft and so on. But the day they run out of that, it's gonna fall on me. So I'm just going as fast as I can, building everything that I can.
Exactly. Use it now because again, these tools, this pricing is insane. We're in the honeymoon phase of the enshittification process where they're still building this is the time where, and I'm hoping that because we're aware of that, like you said, I'm getting while the getting's good. they're giving away lobsters and steaks, all you can eat. I'm loading up on this stuff until they realize that like, hey, this is not. So they want you to use the API. That's how they would prefer you interact with it, right? Because they can then pass the cost along to you.
Well, I mean, right now I think they're just trying to get people on the platform and using it, right? And
Gotcha.
so that's why the subscription is cheaper than using the API.
They're getting user base. This
Yeah,
again, you're right. It's phase one. We need the user base.
yeah.
Once we have the user base and they're hooked and dependent upon it, because if you are one of the people that can make the choice because you can do the coding yourself and you could probably know like for me to have the AI do this costs X and my time is worth some number hopefully higher than X, but I can still choose to do it if I find it fun or if I wanted to step in. Like you can do that, can't you?
Yeah, I can. It's just a time commitment, right? So it's a lot
Right.
faster to do with AI versus without. But yeah, but if that happened, that's the reason why I'm a little hesitant to go after VC money, right? Because with VCs, a lot of them, I don't think they see what's happening, and I don't. And even if they do see what's happening, they're like, oh yeah, OpenAI or Microsoft, they'll figure something out. They're big behemoths. Um, but then if that falls through, then what happens? I mean, their entire portfolios are going to, because I'm sure a lot of people a lot of these VCs who get tech companies on board, they're investing because those tech companies are either building something with AI or they're building an AI agent or something, right?
Yeah.
And it's because it's so cost effective right now to do that.
They
And
want to get to artificial general intelligence because then they win. But
yeah,
the thing, it would be just so darkly amusing though if like the masters of the uniforms just basically dash themselves on the rocks of we know what we're like. Think about it. Again, I'm 43, so I've seen the dot-com bubble, the housing bubble, the precious metals bubble, the crypto bubble, um, the NFT bubble, and now it's the AI bubble, and it feels like every single step of the way, there's the people who are funding it. Again, there are people out there that throw billions of dollars around. I will put it as a side, not to sound bitter, to imagine what I could do with even a fraction of that. Um, and a lot of those billions were like channeled like Sam Bankman-Fried. It's fraud. That's where that went. So that money just poofed. You know, the people that sold at the height of the dot-com bubble, then put it into real estate, got out before the whole thing blew up. That's where all this money is. If it just got incinerated on the pile of AI, well, at least we'll get some nice data centers out of it. Um, and I think you're smart to find a way to live in a world where the cloud suddenly you're paying the real price, the non-subsidized price. Because the way you just described it, OpenAI isn't providing the underlying compute. That's Microsoft. So it's like there's the three-step tower. So again, OpenAI has to pay whatever Microsoft charges for these resources. Services built on top of OpenAI have to pay whatever that is. And then so you build this tower high enough, the whole thing is a house of cards where no one owns anything. You're just services. We're an apartment building that is sublet blocks down into individual apartments into rooms. Now we're leasing out bathroom spaces, and the whole thing is monetized at every level. And what if people just don't come into the building? Like the whole thing will just crash. Um, and I don't think there's a lot of goodwill out there towards AI. Quite the opposite. Um, that we've been told knowledge workers like us that we will be replaced, which I find amusing. I know they'll try. They will try. Because that they have to. Because that's I saw this with managed services. The selling point is you have 10 people, I can do it with one. Their pitch is you have 100 people, I can do it with one AI bot that's this black box. Trust me, it rarely hallucinates, as far as you know. And now I'm seeing articles about the failures of these products, like to take off, or they're regretful that whoopsie do. Turns out a glorified chatbot can actually replace all these customer service reps, and we have to honor the 60% discount coupon that it hallucinated up out of nowhere. Are you seeing that from your side of things, or
What AI bots fail? I'm not
just
really
the
looking.
whole? You have a very unique perspective on this because you're living in it, or you're actually building it. I have a box. I am securely in the on-premises space. Could we put it in the cloud? Sure, but we haven't, and there are reasons for security, and usability and billing. I can redline that box that we put in every space. I can spin up hundreds of these decoys. If you did, like you said, if you do that, oh, I'm out of credits. Whoopsie. Um, so now my development is around how do I minimize my credit consumption as opposed to how do I make my software better, which is, I don't know, dumb.
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't been looking much at. There are some AI agents out there that do really well, but those that do well are people who are they've come up with a way to like because if you're building an AI agent, accuracy is everything, right? Because that's what you're selling. You're selling
Yeah.
this bot that's as accurate as what a human being can do. And to get to that kind of accuracy, you have to constantly test, retest, modify your prompts, modify any coding logic around it, MCP servers, what have you, in order to get the best results. And anytime a user says that, oh, I typed in this, I expected this output, but the AI agent gave me this other thing instead. You got to really look at that, scrutinize it, and figure it out. So writing prompts is a bit of a guessing game because it's not like fixing code, right? But fixing code is like, if there's a bug in the code, you fix that once, you're done.
Yeah.
Uh,
Prompt engineering.
yeah, yeah. With prompt engineering, it's like, all right, fine. You wrote a prompt and then you found a case where it doesn't work very well. You put in an instruction within the prompt to say, hey, no, don't do this or whatever. It is always only going to work about 97 to 98% of the time because it's not deterministic, right? So that's the real challenge with AI agents. I get them
It sure is.
that
We have a doctor here. He's great. 98% of the time, he's going to get that heart surgery perfect. What happens the other 2%? Cuts your head off. But he does it very with confidence. And if you call him out on it, he will admit, oh, you're right. I did cut their head off. It's my bad. That's a shockingly low success rate from what I would expect from a computer. And I think you said they're non-deterministic. Because you could feed that same prompt in, and you will not get 100% the same code every single time. How similar are the code generations that it's doing? Like, are different functions, or is there even seeing it that? Are there consistencies between things, or is it, do you know what I mean? I'm digging into my deep repertoire of Java and C++ and Perl and Python coding. Is
yeah.
that
No, what I'm seeing is that so the way I work with Cursor is that I'll open a new agent tab every single time. I've seen some people do it where they'll stay on the same like they'll train and they'll have an agent tab open where their base prompt is basically saying, hey, you are a UI expert or whatever, and this is what you're
like
really good
my,
at.
my cognitive shards? You are my little helper here, and your job is to do you pass butter.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Exactly. But what I do is I open a new agent tab, but then I'll capture like if there's a certain pattern of something that I keep on doing over and over again, right? Like for ingesting data sets, for instance, each county has their own data sets for this stuff. So, but the format can be a little different, and the URL is a little different and all that. So there's a little bit of coding that has to be done for each county. So I just extracted those rules out to separate markdown file, right? And then from a new agent tab, I'll just always invoke the markdown file saying that, hey, this is your base prompt, and then this is what I want you to do for this particular county, just as an
You're
example.
spinning up another worker, basically,
Exactly. Yeah.
and giving them a job, which is
Yeah.
video games are really the best language. Did you play anything like Warcraft or StarCraft or anything like that, or that sort of games? Or did you
Played
play computer
Warcraft.
games at all? Or
I did, but I was more of a Counter-Strike kind of person. I never got into Warcraft or
I don't know if I didn't really play Counter-Strike because I would just get shot in the head, and then a 12-year-old would inform me about my sexual preferences, and that just wasn't an idea of a good time for me. So, so I stayed away to more of the single player experience.
those
But
damn kids, man. Those was like, get out of here.
it's funny though, as you get older, and of course your skin, in theory, I can't keep up with the twitch reflexes of the younger kids, but I'm a wily veteran. Um, And when I play video games with my son, who again he's 9, and we play like a platformer, and he's like, "Daddy, let me play this. This part's really hard for you." And I'm like, "Kid, I've been doing this for 35 years." He's like, "How do you know how to do this?" Like, a few thousand hours of skill time invested in finger reflexes. It's fun. It's an interesting experience, and I'm trying to convince him of the utility. Oh, you'll appreciate this as a Counter-Strike player. My son refuses to use WSAD. He wants to use the arrow keys. And so I watch him cross. He needs 3 hands to play. And I point this out to him, and he doesn't. No, I'm going, well, I like the arrow keys. And I swapped the keys out. So I put WSAD on the arrow keys and the arrow keys where they were because I have like a dozen spare keyboards. That didn't work. Can you imagine?
Yeah, but then how is he if he's using the arrow keys and well, I guess I mean you got shift. Well, yeah, I mean control is not.
You need three
I'm a
hands.
Mac.
And my wife does the same thing when we play games, and I'm literally watching her. I'm like, Mel, your arms are crossed. Like, I just want to point out that if you're doing this, things have gone awry. Or I'm like, hey, you know where the E key is? It's right next to the W key. It's almost like you could just boop, move it, almost as if it was. Nope,
Yeah, how do you switch your guns? How do you? That,
badly. That's the question.
you're
That's
still
the
switching your
answer.
guns. They just go and
Daddy's circle strafing around him, and he's like trying to like shoot him. Like, Daddy, stop doing that. And I'm like, nope.
just take the knife out, just stab him to death.
Yeah.
That's what we do to people who don't know how to play. Yeah, you're wasting your bullets if you try to shoot somebody. So just take the knife out, walk up to them. They're struggling to change their guns or take out the grenade or whatever. And just
Yeah. Hey, he's here. You want to say hi? This is Mr. Vivek.
Hello, Mr. Vivek.
We're
hello.
talking
How are
about
you?
you. We're talking about WSAD.
You gotta use WSAD. You gotta anyway.
Anyway, this is the we are remote learning, as we can tell, because they blew through all their snow days this week, and so yeah, there's a lot of homework that still needs to be done, as you can see. My assistant, though.
Your mom.
Yeah, same here. At Howard County, I don't know. My wife was telling me that they don't have remote learning or something. So it was like, so they were just shut down for 3 or 4 days. So which is
It's,
weird.
it's they have computers, although they no longer let them bring them home, which is a change. And Ryan just won the lottery of Daddy has lots of computers in the house, and so and he knows how to set them up fairly with a fair amount of confidence, above average amount of confidence. Um, but cool. So, were you able to make it to the graduation event earlier in the week?
Yeah, for the first part of it because I signed up for that not the Bright X but there's the Howard County business accelerator or something that you had mentioned. The same person that ran it for you, like that person not running it anymore. So it's basically Pauline and Justin that are running this one. But
Yes.
it's pretty good. So I had to go for that one there, but I did show up because it started at 3:30. So I showed up there and I met Tom. Gordon was there as well. Gordon won the pitch competition, by the way.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
I'm
Uh,
sorry. I wish I could have gone, but I
But
just couldn't make
yeah,
it.
I wasn't there for the pictures though. I was just there until the program began, and then I had to leave. Um, But yeah, but I did show up there, I think, and this time around the county executive also showed up, which was great.
Yes,
Um,
that is nice to hear. Um, yeah, it's just, of course, it was when we had this, like the biggest snowstorm we've had in 10 years. And I guess, where are you out of? You're in Howard County or?
yeah, I'm in Ellicott City.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering, did they got measurably less snow than we did? Because I was still digging. I literally had to dig my wife's car out because we got about a foot and a half snow and it turned to ice.
Oh
Well,
yeah, we shoveled about 4 times on Sunday, and then twice on, I think, well, again 3 or 4 times on Monday. It was a lot of snow. We
yeah,
did a lot of shoveling, but we were shoveling while the snow was coming down as well, because we were like, we don't want it to settle down, and then because that you're right, if it's a foot and a half, then it's a lot harder to shovel. So we just did it in batches.
yeah, that was. I wish I had done. I had a nice big gas-powered snowblower, and so I was able to get through it. But it was turning it. It turned into like freezing rain. And what I convinced myself of was that I don't want to, I want to leave it as the powder because it'll form a crust on top and then it'll still be able to get through it. Well, that was kind of true, but the little bits that I had done, so my poor dog, who's a little dog, could actually go to the bathroom.
Bring her up.
No, just don't bring her up. That was an ice, and my snowblower was not capable of carving through. It was like a ski resort. So I had to literally get a shovel and pry it up. Didn't throw my back out, luckily. But it was, yeah, I haven't dealt with this much snow since my son was born. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, same here. I also haven't. I actually went out to get something while it was I think on Sunday afternoon or so. Bad idea. There was just like I had to drive through like 4 inches of snow on the inner roads. I was scared. I was like, this was a terrible. I'm never doing this again.
Well, and then you realize like those huge piles of snow next to all the parking lots, really bad for sight lines when you're trying to make a right turn onto like one of the many highways in Colombia. Like, am I gonna get T-boned by a truck or something like that? I just wish that the
Dad,
I,
don't say your wishes out loud.
thanks, Ryan. I wish that it was easier to get to the MIC.
Wishes out loud.
Appreciate that, Ryan. Because coming to the on-person site like this one, it would have been a nightmare coming from I'm Towson. So I've got to get around Baltimore. They've been doing work on the Beltway. It's at least an hour each way without a foot and a half of snow. Um, but no, I'm really glad that this is the second cohort that, that's awesome that Gordon won. That's amazing. And I'm hoping to I hope that we can get more people onto these things. I'm going to open it up to uh, what days are best for people or have other ones because I would really love to record people's pitches just for us to have as like you could have like a playlist on our YouTube channel of everybody's pitch for investors. That's something that you can share. I mean, I had the thought of if you had like a pitch like that, you could have a special business card which just has the QR code to the URL of your YouTube that page. And here's you want to hear more? Go to this link. Scan this link with your phone and watch this 2 minute, really, really dialed in, polished pitch that would be really hard to give consistently on the spot. How cool would that be?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. I think a lot of people do that now these days.
I would still have my again. I'm a curmudgeon, so I would still have my good old fashioned one of these where you can can't see anything. My actual paper card and stuff like that. I love when I get just a QR code. There's literally no other information on it. I'm like, sure thing, stranger I just met. I'll scan that. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Yeah. Um, well, cool. Well, so. What's your plans over the next month or so? You're still do you have your prototype are you getting to the MVP stage?
Yeah, we're getting to the MVP stage. We're still working on a couple of the core algorithms that produce these attributes because they're not working perfectly yet. And a couple of the reasons were because the input data sets aren't very clean. Like you're dealing with GIS like polygon shapes and then lines for roads and things like that. So there were a few issues there where my co-founder was finding like, oh, okay, this hard corner thing isn't working, or there's a signal here, but then it didn't pick it up, and some of the parcels aren't marked with like a nearby signal attribute. So we're working through some of that. We're getting very, very close now to a really high rate of accuracy, where my co-founder, like, he plays around with it, and then after 2 or 3 hours, maybe he'll find an issue somewhere. So that's great. And then after that, I'm also making changes to the UI, making it a little bit more polished up. We're thinking through like, all right, for the initial launch, how are we gonna? Well, initially we were like, all right, let's just make it self-serve, where you can just go to the site, pay a $0.9 a month fee or something, and you have access. But we're thinking for the first few clients, we want to control that a little bit more, and just get people on that we really want, so we can get some good, so we can get some
Recruit your customers, basically.
exact.
Had you thought of having them beta testing the system as it is, just to get feedback from people that know better? We're finished now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of approaching yeah, but basically, yes, we're thinking of it because my co-founder, some of his
You got deep
ex-coworkers or
bench of talent in the real estate sector.
exactly, yeah, he knows a bunch of people, so probably have some of them come and test the product out first, just give us, some early feedback about what they think, before we open it up to real customers, or I mean, they could be our real customers too, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, they turning them into paying customers eventually with either a teaser rate, or they're your friends and family is what we're running into for who, to answer the question, who's using this? Because you don't want it to be you're the first. No one's excited about being the first for some reason.
Yeah, especially if they don't know you. So initially, it'll be people who are, coming through channels where we know them personally.
If you don't mind me, again, I love this. I know this is not cybersecurity, but again, I love hearing business ideas. That's one of the reasons. I'm glad to hear you're at the MIC doing that, because that was my favorite part and why I kept coming back to the fast track program and whatever they are replacing it with. Hearing about other people's challenges outside of my own sphere of, you start to see overlaps where you actually might have insights that I hadn't thought of because I have my blinders. And when you talk to people that, deal with baking or something like that, they might have insights in logistics that you'd never thought important about.
Can JJ one? I can text
Yes.
over John.
Home learning. We're going to get into homework soon. I moved my computers up here. Here, let me put my background off for a second. Blur my background. Don't blur my background. So that's the setup we have there. So we're gonna adjust back.
So it looks like you got a really talented intern working for you.
Yes, a very nice
Get
intern.
JJ to come in.
Oops, not that one. This one.
Get JJ to come in.
We cannot, Ryan. Just a moment. So we previously were in the basement, and then we wanted to get sunlight and things like that. So, but no, that's fascinating just to hear, because again, you're using technology. A lot of the overlap, if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of the stuff that was coming from the cybersecurity side, but applied in a novel way to some place where. Is there a lot of AI stuff? I mean, you guys have your own niche, or what does it look like today?
What is you mean in terms of what we're doing?
Yeah, is it I guess I'll ask the questions, who are your competitors?
Our competitors are basically so there's a whole lot of AI apps out there that are basically they're going with the sites, they're approaching the site selection problem via saying, you know what, here's an AI bot that'll scour the web for you in order to find deals for properties that are either already on the market, or there's some signals that they picked from Reddit or whatever, where this person is looking to sell. Okay, so That's totally fine. If your main goal as an investor is just to look for deals that are already online, right? But how do you know that they're any good? Because with real estate, you could put a McDonald's like in the middle of a neighborhood with houses and whatnot, and piss off a bunch of people, and nobody will go to it, right? Or at least the traffic won't be that much to that location because there are not that many cars that pass through that location very often. The
Right.
only cars you'll get are the 4 or 5 houses that are directly around that McDonald's. So
They would walk.
yeah,
And then they're not using the drive-through, which is what they prefer because they don't want you coming into the restaurant and fast food. They want to
exactly.
cycle through as fast as possible.
Exactly. So for that McDonald's site to really do business really well, it has to be at a on a main road that's getting ton of traffic through it, 20,000, 30,000 vehicles per day, and it's at a signal as well because just psychologically, if you stopped at a signal and you're waiting and you see the McDonald's, you're like, all right, you know what? I'm hungry. I'm just going to go and grab something real quick from there. So they've figured out all these things that they want in their sites location wise. Um, and yeah, so anyway, the way all most of our competitors solve the problem is through creating an AI bot that'll just look for sites online. The way we're solving it is saying, hey, let's take these attributes into consideration and then figure out how to find ideal sites in like any given county, right? And then pop those up and say, hey, in Howard County, these are all the places that are close to a six.
Optimal.
Yeah, and so on. So, so that's how we're solving it. That's how we're different. We have one other competitor who's maybe a year ahead of us, who's also appears to be doing the same exact thing. So fairly early days, and we're going after retail. They're going after multifamily. Um,
Gotcha. So you're similar but different because you have a different customer set. They're looking for residential, you're more commercial.
yes, exactly. Well, I mean, residential is also multifamily is basically apartment complexes. So they're
Okay,
also,
yeah.
but yeah, different side of commercial.
Different type of commercial. Although it would probably be, I would argue, just thinking about it, that there would probably be synergies between the two products because you want to put multifamily family areas in places that are desirable for the certain types of businesses that you would want to have around you. Because who wants to build an apartment complex that's in the middle of no, I mean, I guess they do this all the time, that the nearest signs of civilization is like 20 miles away or something like that. The way that they used to do the suburban development in Maryland, where someone in northern Maryland would sell a farm and they put like 90 houses on it in the middle of nowhere, and the infrastructure is not capable of supporting it even a little bit. It raises congestion, it causes all these problems, there's no businesses, and then big businesses move in. It's nasty, and I think they've legislated against that sort of thing now.
Yep.
Is that a thought that you could pitch this to the Howard County government as a way to encourage better growth or smarter growth?
Yeah. Yeah, that thought has crossed our minds, and we want to, but then, I mean, I don't know, I guess the size of the check that a county is going to cut is not going to be as big as, a B2B entity
It
would.
might be physically large if you win a competition.
Basically, you
They
won
misunderstood. You
$400.
were not clear with the prompt, and the large checks are now just big.
Yeah, no, it's definitely crossed our mind to go and talk to them, and we probably will run a demo with Howard County when we're ready, and assuming that they even like it and they want to run a pilot with us, that'd be great.
Well,
Um,
I think this might be one of those places where I'm hoping that we can leverage the relationship that we have, such as it is with Howard County Economic Development Authority and all this. There's this weird, again, I feel like I have a crazy person wall with lines and pictures about trying to untangle all this, but I had found that Howard County is very, again, this is, kudos to, the people that have put all this stuff together, but they have some really nice small business friendly. I think it was like no bid for local Howard County businesses that are doing things that cost less than $10,000 or something like that, where You don't have to go through the formal bid process. It's specially put aside for it. I wish we had that in Baltimore County. We do not. Unfortunately, when I asked people in the government about it, they were largely unaware of the program. And I'm like, oh, right. Government.
Yeah.
Frustrating at times. But
Yeah.
no, because like, I'm just thinking about this. Are you solving a problem that you think exists for the county? Like what?
Yeah. Definitely.
And then I wish there was a way that somehow you could convey that message to the right person in the government, and then they would have the ability to like realize that we have this glorious public-private partnership that I know they love talking about, but for some reason it never seems to happen between like small companies and the government. It's only the big ones, which is frustrating.
Yeah, that's the thing, because you remember when we were pitching the idea of this podcast, Bob had said kind of very clearly and emphatically. I mean, you weren't there, but he told me that
We are building an ecosystem. We are
we're
building
building
a
an
community. We're
ecosystem.
not chasing sales.
Exactly.
Bob, this one's for you if you
If
listen.
you want to sell to Howard County, go through the procurement process. So that's why I have a little hesitant sometimes to like bring it up. But definitely, I mean, when we're ready, I'm definitely gonna go to them and say, hey, I have this now. Do you want to at least take a look at it and
Well,
see if this is useful or what?
and I guess here's the thing, like, and again, bringing up the procurement thing, I have investigated this, and there is objectively, I think I found going through my papers, I had a big QR codes for the Howard County officials that I could hand to them and say, hey, here's a link to your website about this great program that you have. I've talked to people that work in the federal government, and the problem I feel like is their vision is in the millions or in the billions or in the hundreds of thousands. Like their scope of what, oh, you want to sell to me? Well, obviously you need to be applying for our $1.2 million IT overhaul that we do once every 5 years. Yeah, we could probably fit you in there. No, you will not win. There is a 0% chance of you being selected, and the amount of work that you would have to go through to not be selected makes it's fun. It's a stupid thing for a small business to spend a lot of time on. You know what I mean? Whereas there's lots of problems that are small that still could be solved by government, but allow me to stand on my soapbox, aren't because they're small enough to not rise above a certain level, like a cracked panel on a sidewalk, or a part of the road that needs to be patched, or some branches that need to be trimmed. Things where a private company that had a few $100 or a few $1,000s in their hand could fix the problem in a day, instantaneously. But the mechanism by which the government, who has the money to pay the people who can then actually do the work, something has gone wrong along the way. And I hope that things like this, like how do we fix it? It has to start at the local level. Like this problem of thinking that we're just in it for the money. Again, if we sell a $5,000 widget to Howard County government, at the risk of sounding elitist, I don't think $5,000 in the big scheme of the budget for all of the things that they have to do. I would bet that there are dozens of administrative people that have statutory signing authority for amounts of money. Oh, the printer broke and we need another one. And that was always my skill as a solutions architect, was to try to find those little cracks in the procurement process where you could actually get something done. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
just to sell, like, if you could sell a $1,000 widget to Howard County, like, and maybe this is the part that, for the ecosystem, for you to be able to say to an investor, Howard County, one of the 23 counties of Maryland, the state, is using my product. Now, maybe they're using it in one office for one small thing as a pilot deployment. Doesn't matter. They're using it. You have their logo, and that is worth so much more, I would think, at this stage than the amount of money you would gain from that individual sale. Like, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, no, I completely agree because at our stage, it's all about building credibility, right?
Yeah.
And you build credibility by having people who have the problem use the product that you're building to solve that problem. If you do a good job, then then you get their logo and you get them as a customer, and that's
And
credibility
here's the
right there.
frustrating part. I've tried giving it away for free, and that's a problem too. You can't just, oh, we can't just take a free thing that costs no money and test it. Like, that just, as silly and stupid and frustrating as it is to say that, I always have to remind it is the way that it is, which is why buying a thing so now you actually take ownership for what it's worth of it, it is an asset that works within the existing framework of bureaucracies. You're not asking them to like throw, you know, that's why subscriptions are hard to get in place. It's easier to give them a widget that they then don't have to, do a whole lot for. But yeah, this is something maybe we should talk to Chuck about, and I don't know how to do this, but there's hopefully a third cohort. And if we keep doing this sort of thing, I think we'll still be at the table. Um,
I
and
got a
just think about it.
I got a question for you. What about nonprofits? Because I see a lot like I read an article recently where there was like it was a multi-million dollar grant that was given to some nonprofit organization to fix up Baltimore, something to that extent. And I was just like, multi-million? Okay, well, what if Site Searcher were a nonprofit organization saying, hey, we're just giving services to the government. Maybe they can give some of that sweet millions to me.
Actually, you've hit the nail on the head. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing my work in digital equity, and that's put me in contact with, again, the nonprofit ecosystem where um, there aren't a lot of me's at these meetings. There's not a lot of people there's no one in the cybersecurity space for the most part that's even bothering to show up. Again, shame on my peers. I'm the only one who actually raised their hands. Um, there has been, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's been some changes in Washington where grant funding is no longer quite as popular as it once was. And a lot of these nonprofits are really scrambling. Um, and the biggest problem for nonprofits, and I'll pass this on to you, if you can solve it, you will be the hero to them all. They fund things through grants, which think of that as a capital one-time purchase. I buy a thingy and then I own the thingy and I use the thingy as long as I possibly can because I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to replace it. We've gone to this, everything is a subscription model, and you have like what happened with the the Affordable Connectivity Program, the ACP in Baltimore. And I was the one who asked that a few years ago that, Baltimore, Brad, they got like 35,000 people that had never had a computer, never gotten connected to the internet before online. It was great. I was the killjoy that raised my hand like, hey, when we have this new group of completely novice computer and internet users that are now being thrown to the wild, how are we going to protect them from immediately falling victim to cyber attacks? And there was silence. And they're like, huh, that's a good point. Someone write that down. And now I sit on a number of, committees and stuff like that. But there is not money forthcoming in that to do it. Like they have money, the considerations of where nonprofits buy from or don't buy from is more complicated than it is in the corporate space, which is a simple way of me saying it's complicated and frustratingly so because it's hard to find people that can make a decision. Not this is terrible to say, but just that is a problem sometimes is that I'm not going to say names, but I was on one of my board meetings and this blew my mind that was a gentleman from, it was William Honblue from Baltimore City IT. He and I great friends, and like we take over meetings and we just will talk over everything because we both are and we are trying to figure out this digital equity forum that we're setting up about how we're going to get businesses there, maybe get them to advertise to the local community, and how we're going to have literacy all at this thing that we're just brainstorming. And the guy who called the meeting was like, guys, like, whoa, like, listen, we're not here to like solve all these problems. We're here to raise awareness about these problems. And it was like I'd been just punched in the mouth. Like, I, this may be hard for you to imagine, but I was actually at a loss for words. Or I was like, okay, we won't make that mistake again. It's like, yeah. So
Yeah, that's the
there's a
frustrating part. Yeah.
it is extremely frustrating because these are nice, well, I assume well-meaning people that aren't just in it for the grift or something like that. Although I'm somewhat suspecting that that might be a non-zero number of people who are in it just because you can make money. There is money to be made. And like you said, there's multi-million dollar grants that are being given out. The questions about how much of that is being spent on administrative overhead or things like that versus the actual cause that they are. And sometimes, I mean, you and I, we could form a nonprofit. We could turn HoCo Cyber Collective into a nonprofit. I've got the .org. You know, if we wanted to, all we need is I think there's like 7 non-related people. That's basically a cohort who are willing to sign up for this thing and we need to have a stated mission to advance the interests of cybersecurity in the cradle of innovation that is Howard County. And thanks to Dr. Calvin Ball for everything that he does. Done. He can take credit if he wants. We're humble. And honestly, that sometimes is all that's needed is to get the right people excited about it. They don't necessarily know everything that's going on, but they trust you and coming to things like these are good. I'm glad that they're allowing people like old salts like us to keep because it actually shows forethought on their mind because every single cohort, guess what? The alumni group gets bigger. That's how trade organizations get formed. Is that enough of us just say, hey, you know what? It would be cool if we formed some kind, and that was what Bob, I think, was really excited about, you and I spontaneously organized this podcast.
Yeah, I just haven't been able to put a whole lot of time towards it. That's all, 'cause I've been busy trying to build
Me
it
neither.
out.
And I don't want to disappoint our audience of at least a few people. Again, my son is no longer here, but he would be asking, Daddy, why are you so bad at YouTube? But I want to be consistent and I want to stick with something. This is honestly, I mean, we've produced 20 episodes. That is the longest thing that I have ever personally done on YouTube ever. And it's kind of, I mean, dude, we're putting videos on the internet of ourselves. Like that's crazy. Like this wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. Not without, a multi-million dollar studio. Now got a $50 mic. I got that I mean like my 4K webcam, which I have to use an adapter for USB-C to my old computers. However, it was a gift. And that's it, basically. And my Zoom account, which I get through that I do through my business. And I finally
Wow.
caved and bought more than 20 gigabytes of storage because I was running out. I had to delete previous episodes to make room for the next recording.
My God. So the one with Tom got a lot of views. I mean, 24 views.
And it's all relative. And honestly, I'm trying not to look at the Mr. Beasts of the world because first off, that's the path to clinical depression about why is no one watching my videos and stuff like that.
Because you're not giving $1 million away to whoever does, blah, blah, blah.
We've blinded 1,000 people, and we will restore their sight if they compete a number of physical challenges. Dark, man. That's what AI is for, to show. Actually, I've seen AI videos of like future Mr. Beast where he's like stranding people on alien planets and like seeing if they survive. Releasing killbots to hunt them. Mr. Beast bots, I think they were called, to hunt them down. It's like my son did not like that video. He's like,
They
"Oh, you're
probably
gonna
need
do
more
that?"
episodes where the cybercrime capers episode 3, case of a stolen. Oh wait, that's just a minute and a half.
And actually I actually thank you for bringing that up because that's where the accountability thing that's his planned. I have 10 episodes planned. and I'm just going through the physical activities. I fell off the wagon of doing it, of actually physically animating the little alien spacecrafts. Episode 4 is going to be, I think, about, I can't remember, but it's going to be like a 1960s alien invasion with deliberately bad special effects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those ones are useful because they're meant to be like evergreen content where I sit on the board for like cybersecurity for older adults, which is what we're apparently supposed to call them now. They're not senior citizens, they're older adults. I told my mom that she's an older adult, and she's like, "No, I'm not. I'm a senior citizen." And I'm like, "You would get in big trouble at one of my meetings for using such harmful language."
But that's because she gets, you get discounts. She's probably at that age where she gets discounts. We're not at that age yet. You got to be like, I don't know, 65 and over or whatever it is.
Well, I mean, the discounts also come from the cyber criminals that will cheerfully target you. Actually, let me share a little bit of this because I spent time I spent time generating a number of these things here. Let me share. So this is for episode 4. Let's see. Episode 4 is the invasion of the account hackers. So there's the boss alien. Here he is angry. I have to make it with a completely purely green background so that I can fairly trivially. Guess what? That doesn't happen. So I have to go into Microsoft Paint and then manually paint out. And I know this is like, again, I have a budget of $0 for these videos, so I'm just using the stuff that's built in. Here's the henchman character for this one who I wanted it to have obvious strings on it, so it obviously put a string above and below. And then, I think this is what it's going to be. Let me see. Can you see that?
Yeah, so it's basically in the style of like a 19,
Yeah.
what was it,
So this is what you're seeing is today's episode is the invasion of the account hackers. Um, and then that's as far as I've gotten so far. Because I always have these things take time. Even with AI makes it so that I can get things like this, where I'm more I don't have AI do all of the work. I get it to make things like, oh, now I have a shape like this that I can now copy and paste. Um, and yeah, these are the other Invasion of the Accounts, License to Scam, that's going to be like a James Bond one. Treasure of the Trojan Horse, like a historical epic. Trial of the Fake News Fiends, a legal procedural type thing. Battle of the Botnets, like a World War II drama. Lucky Gets Scammed. It's going to be like Lucy. Um, and that's when I had the thought of having female versions of so I'm on, I think, 11 labs for the voices. And I've learned some tricks again, it's all about being efficient with tokens because the voices would change very, very slightly in between takes, which is super duper noticeable when you're listening to the actual thing. So the way I did it was you can have the voice do a sample script. I have it actually say scene 1, and then it says its line, and then it says scene 2, and then its line. And then so it's a single long recording, which I then use the scene 1, scene 2, scene 3 as the gap to then chop it up, edit it, and that ensures the voice is always the same. That was just a random piece of things that I've learned, but yeah, these were the most popular videos. They're much shorter. The commitment to watching, I could even turn these into a YouTube short if I wanted to, except that I don't know how to make things in the I made everything landscape, and so the YouTube shorts you have to be like the very old or the very young who hold their phones incorrectly like this when they're watching things instead of like this, like it's a TV, like it should be. How do you hold your phone when you watch things?
Oh, I mean, it depends on the video that I'm watching. YouTube, thankfully, will give me the broad thing, so I hold the
Yeah.
phone like this so I can see the whole thing. But sometimes other places that I don't know, whether it's Daily Motion or something else. Sometimes the video and sometimes they even shoot it that way. They'll shoot it as
Up and
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, we joked back when millennials were completely in control of the cultural zeitgeist. That's how boomers shoot videos.
Yeah.
Most of my parents' pictures and videos, they do this. I take pictures like this. Um,
Yeah.
Here's a interesting thing you can tell about how old someone is. That can you pantomime taking a picture?
Sorry, what is
Like this is driving a car. Like go do the gesture of take. Can you take a picture or something like that? How would you do that gesture?
how do I take pictures?
If you were to try to tell me, if you were trying to non-verbally ask me or tell me to take a picture, what is the hand signal that you would use? I'm not explaining it very well, I don't think. For me, it's this.
Yeah, yeah, same here.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was do this, yeah.
How show me picking up the phone. What's this?
That's because
That's the
there's flip
symbol
phone.
that's on the phone app. That's
Yeah. No, but that's also well, yeah, there's that, but then you also had the flip phones earlier on, right? Like
Yep.
that's
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I had. I was rocking my Razor when I finally had a cell phone.
yeah,
Um,
that was the first kind of mobile phone that I had. I had this, so you open it up and then it goes like this, and then the thing to talk is right there. So,
yep. Here's the favorite thing. You see where I just circled?
huh?
Did you just see where I just annotated up top up here?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? Can you see? It's the save button. What's the
Oh, it's
symbol
a
for save?
floppy disk. They still have it.
Got a little
Oh,
arrow above it, and so I actually found I found my zip disk player, which hey, it's got USB. So back, it'll probably still work with this computer. Um, but yeah, I found floppies, and I've heard like young people like, oh, you 3D printed the save button, and that's just I feel old when I hear that. But that's you can tell if someone that or this thing or hey, this is how I dial a phone. Uh, that's or pushing actual buttons.
oh, that
Um,
reminds me. I saw this LinkedIn post a couple of weeks ago where it was like the person had listed 20 things over there, and the question was how many of like how many of these do you recognize, right? And so they had things like Walkman on there, and then the dial phone, fax machine, and so on. Sorry, the question was how many of these have you actually used in your life, right? Dialed up to the internet, that kind of stuff.
56K modem when that was the fastest you could ever hope to have.
Yeah, the only I think the only like three things that were on the list that I hadn't done. One was sit outside with a boombox. Like that just wasn't part of the yeah, that wasn't part that never got part of the culture in India. So or at
I
least
never put batteries in my boombox. It was always plugged in my room, but I did listen to CDs on it
yeah, yeah,
and cassettes. It was a combo.
and then have you listened to a Walkman? The because you had to put the cassettes in the Walkman and then
hmm And the
my wife
concept
had
of rewinding, I
yeah.
remember rewinding. Um, I've actually done brain surgery where we had an actual VHS tape that had broke the actual plastic part had broken. I was confident enough that I knew how it worked that I took a blank disc, I unscrewed the cassette, took the reels out, like the actual film reels that are in there. I did brain surgery basically and just swapped out one brain for another, and guess what? It worked just fine. I didn't install it upside down or anything like that. Which I guess I could have done if that would have been kind of funny. But I'm trying to teach my son about this old analog technology because it's just like to try to circle back to what we were talking about that wow, we're going back to on premises. Like it's cyclical where the cost issue as soon as the VC money runs out, and like you said, their burn rate only goes up as adoption increases without really a corresponding profitable increase in revenue to make. I'm sure they get more revenue, maybe, but there's so many competitors out there that are all losing money. You know, they're all trying to get market share from each other. So again, stage one, this is great for the consumer. Enjoy it, kids. You're never going to get an LLM with the power of ChatGPT 4 or 5 performing at the rate that it does, where it's like that. I could run that locally. It would just take a few hours probably to churn through that in the context window, assuming I even have enough GPU capabilities, which I do not. I only have an 8 GB graphics card, which, plays my games well enough, but apparently is somewhat laughably small. And all the GPUs are super expensive now.
Here's a scenario I want to pass by you, just to see what you think, right? So it's obvious that they're burning through a lot of money and they're making a lot and they're making losses more than they're making any gains. Um, and at some point, their choice is going to be either pack up shop or hike your prices and then hope and pray that people stay.
Or
So
find more VC money. Or find
yeah, but then
more.
at some point, VCs are just going to be like, all right, well, we put what I mean, I don't, at this point is what, 500 or 600 billion dollars that we invested in OpenAI, some ridiculous amount.
It is an unfathomable amount of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Countries worth of money.
Yeah,
Again, at this point, we're just making up numbers. Like it is so far. I've seen like fun videos where you try to visualize things like billions or trillions in dollars, and it's just like that's a stack of cash, probably the size of the Freedom Tower or
yeah,
something similar like that. That has just been set on. It's gone. It's been
yeah,
spent on compute subscriptions, which, by the way, it all flowed down into the underlying hyperscalers, the three big ones. They're the real beneficiaries of it because they're the sieve that catches all the money.
yeah,
Um, but they have the biggest exposure because they're the ones that have to actually run these massive data centers, which consume huge amounts of power and resources and sorts of things that they're not free to run.
yeah,
Electricity is not free.
yeah,
So there is a cost that is just obscured right
yeah.
now.
So yeah, so if they get to that point where they have to hike their prices, one interesting scenario that I've been thinking about is, what if they hiked it to the point where it's like, hey, you know what? We're only going to keep the big customers around. Like, if I don't know,
Pivot to business. That's stage two.
yeah, pivot to business where it's like it's still a multi-billion dollar business, like I don't know, gas
You
company.
can charge thousands of dollars a month per seat or something like
Exactly.
that.
And you can just charge the Skytrip, charge them like a $500,000
Oh
subscription.
yeah. Oh, trust me, I sold those sorts of things. It was fun.
Yeah,
There are companies that absolutely can afford the real market price.
yeah,
They're called like the Fortune 500,
yeah.
and that leaves the rest of us out in the cold.
But
I
if
think
you're
that that's going to happen. It has to. You're right. This is a math problem. Eventually, this whole circular investing thing. I don't know. I've been watching videos and stuff. This is, of course, interesting where the algorithm has picked me up as an AI skeptic. And so I always wonder, like, is there a part of YouTube where people are like, this is awesome. We are going to get 5x scale and get it's like the cryptocurrency ecosystem where they have a language of their own. They're very enthusiastic and are not particularly open to criticism from outsiders like me. Um, I've been on the internet for a while. I know how this works. um, and I accept it. It's just the way that it is. But it's
I didn't come onto the internet to argue with you. I came on the
yeah,
internet to find people who agree with me.
yes.
I have plenty of people like you in my real life telling me that I'm an idiot.
Well, and this is where I have an MBA, so I've learned business courses and I understand like math and stuff, and so I understand that the underlying purpose of these for-profit businesses is to make a profit, and they're not even close. Not it's not like, oh, we just need a few more users and then we'll be over the hump. Like every user that they add increases their costs. So in a way, they should be seeking to actively shrink their user base. And I think that's what they'll do first. They're going to hike the price of the $20 a month because honestly, it's people like me. If I believe I had ChatGPT look into this, like based on your usage, it tells me that I'm in the top 20, I'm in the top 5% of users as far as, and here's the funny thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but It sounds true to me based on how I'm using it and, the complexity of what I'm getting out of it. It's not nothing. These images are pretty damn good. The We can swear on my podcast. I'm an adult, Ryan. Besides, you just can't say the F word, I think, in the first 2 minutes and you won't be demonetized. Yeah, we might be demonetized. Sorry, Vivek. You need to have 1,000 subscribers before you even qualify for that. Like, this is just a fun hobby. If by some dark miracle we start making money, I don't know, I'll reinvest into getting a better microphone or something like. I'll buy you a series of Hawaiian shirts that
That'd be
have
awesome.
real estate themed Hawaiian shirts. Actually, I'm pretty sure that probably exists. Um, and if it doesn't, through the miracle of AI, we can will it into existence on that. Give me an image of Vivek wearing a real estate themed. Actually, I could do that using the avatars that I have right now. See, it's both a scary and a fun time. Like, would you agree with that? Like, I don't like where things are going. I have this sense, I have the same sense of underlying dread that I did with the dot-com bubble and the real estate bubble, where you start having people talking about how the old rules don't apply anymore and that traditional valuations are not capable of capturing the real value that they have. When you hear that, that's when you're like, uh-oh, there's a bubble.
Yeah,
There's some bag holders.
that is total BS. That's I'm also just like every time like, oh yeah, you could, I was looking at another YouTube video yesterday for somebody who's been using Claude Code for the last 6 months, and yeah, pretty good actually. He gave a good rundown of everything. The only turn off for me was at the end. He was like, yeah, you know what? You should treat yourself like a product manager. Don't look at the code. Just ask ask the Claude Code to do the coding for you. Test it out to make sure it's working fine. And then, if it's not working fine,
And
then
if it tells you it's working fine, just trust it,
yeah, just trust it. I was like, no.
Verify in production.
I was like, no.
Verify in customers' production. That's where you find out if they're telling the truth or not.
Let the customers come and tell you that the stuff you built is complete bullshit.
Oh, that and exposed all of their customer data, and they were hacked, and it just you don't have to be super duper creative to come up with scenarios where, especially because again, the underlying, I can tell you this with 100% certainty, even having never received the pitch for one of these, the business message for these products are this entity is think of it as a worker that you don't have to pay directly. Trust me, you'll pay. You don't have to pay health care. It never gets sick. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't complain. It probably won't sexually harass any of your employees. Probably. That hasn't happened yet, but maybe there's an edge case we haven't run into once we get a large number of users banging away at this thing. Um, so you have 100 employees today, each of which will be made 100 times more efficient. In exchange for the cost of 20 of these employees' salaries for my software, you just need to make the math work on your end. Because could you only fire 20? Well, sure. If you're, a lame CEO that isn't going to get with the times, if you fire 50% of your staff, well, I don't know. The incentives are all out of whack. And now you have where companies have gotten so large and so broad in what they do, where the CEO can't even begin to understand the level of complexity. When I was at my previous employer, I counted them. There were 7 layers of management above me to get to the president. You had to get, there was vice president, senior vice president, executive, and each one of them had their own incentive structures and everything. And at their end of year, they were like, hey, it was really hard for us to collaborate with each other, even though we've structured compensation. So it's a zero-sum game. And if you don't hit your numbers because this project is in this category, you get fired. For some weird reason, that didn't produce a lot of cooperation. It was bizarre. Well, let's try again next year. And yeah, I was the bright-eyed new guy that was like really, really excited about it. I actually took I think my peers thought I was insane because the senior vice president for our kickoff said, and if you ever, I have an open door policy, feel free to just reach out to me. And I did. I'm like, I wanted to tell you about something that we did that was really cool. Like we had done this HP deal for like all of the Blue Cross business down in Florida. It was millions of dollars. And so it was an objectively good thing to share. And he was super happy to hear it. But everyone was like, uh, so my boss's boss was getting nervous because I was talking to his boss. And in that world of Game of Thrones, like that's one of the reasons I'm very happy to not be in that world because it's terrible. It's not it's not a good way to run a company. You just get too big. People stab each other in the backs, no one trusts each other. It's horrible. Um, I learned that firsthand. If you ruffle the wrong feathers, that's how that works in the corporate space. You are down here, they're up there. There's 6 layers of complexity amongst this nationwide international business that has 8 different business columns, some of which compete with each other. You know, that's where I see companies like yours, especially if you're getting into an industry where your competition is big, but it's slow. You're It's like an AT-AT walker, and you're one of the speeders. You just got to wrap their legs up, and they'll fall over and blow up. It's easy as pie. Just
That's the hope, at least.
yeah, and don't get caught by them because they will blow you up in a single shot. Um, it's the only hope we have because we can't hope to. You won't have a bigger data set than a legacy performer that's been doing this for a decade, right? Unless you like invent a new type of data. Your pitch is not that I have more data, is that my data is we're using it smarter and we're seeing insights that are not being caught by, and those opportunities represent business arbitrage where land is not being valued at, some land might be overvalued and some land is undervalued. And your program allows them to avoid the former. And someplace that, I mean, is it possible where a spot that a McDonald's, let's say, might think is a perfect spot might turn out to not be because of other factors that might not be immediately obvious? Hopefully that question makes sense.
Location wise, yes, but there's also the other side, which is amenities wise. Like I keep forgetting his name, but one of the people, one of the other cohorts in the second cohort, one of the other companies in the second cohort, I was talking to the CEO who was there at the graduation ceremony, and he's looking for, I keep forgetting the problem. Like there's some place either down in Florida or somewhere that he mentioned where there's a lot of people who own these big houses. They have these big cars, but the garage is like tiny, and so the car doesn't fit in the garage, and so they're looking for a place to park it. And so he has this idea where he wants to build like a parking structure, close to these communities where people can just go and park their big cars or whatever it is, right? And he can't seem to find an ideal site there. But when I talked to him a little bit more, I got the feeling that it's not really the location is not the problem there, right? The location, it's really the amenities. Like there already has to either be a warehouse or something there that just has a lot of space, a lot of open space, and not a whole lot
He
of
needs
work.
space is what he needs. And land values, as you get closer to urban centers, the land value increases,
Yeah, and then
right?
charging stations, like there just needs to be that infrastructure already in place. But so it's more like an amenities problem for him than it is really a site selection problem. So yeah, I mean, if there's a McDonald's location out there that's underperforming because it's not at a hard corner or near a signal or the traffic count's not as high as where it should be, those things are pretty basic. So a McDonald's is not going to make a mistake like that. But a
Right.
smaller chain that's not as big as them, they would probably fall into this trap.
And what's your business model on? Is it going to be a subscription? Is it going to be a one-time software fee with ongoing support and maintenance, which
Yeah,
is
so
sort of like a subscription, but not? Um, have you given thought to that? Or is that
We've
going to depend on how your software ultimately works?
Yeah, we've given a little bit of thought to that. There is a tokens approach that we're considering where it's like, all right, fine, you can.
Josh was doing that, where it was like he was actually for oh God, I can't remember his name. You haven't been on, but he's been my Vivek this year, these few episodes. Um, he is in the cloud, and he had actually considered he's found a way to pass on the cost of the cloud resources that are consumed to the end customer. So it's a pass through. So it's he's and by doing so he's avoiding that, I guess you'd call it the apocalyptic scenario of your product is super duper popular and your users utilize it so much in ways that you did not expect that your cloud consumption costs end up being similar to like we were talking before with AI, that every new customer actually represents a negative value to you because they don't represent revenue, they represent higher costs. And so usually that's the only way to stop that is to put hard caps like you're allowed 50 queries a year or whatever they're measuring. You see that if you buy the basic edition, you get this many widgets a month where they've probably calculated that we'll probably break even or not lose money on the deal. And then we'll somehow charge more for the subscription. But if the price of the underlying infrastructure goes up, because what if Microsoft, Google, and Amazon decide, hey, we'd like to make more money because our shareholders would like our profits to go up, 20% increases across the board. Feel free to go to another hypervisor. They've all raised their prices at the same time because there's not a lot of options out there. Sure, you could go to a smaller provider. Ruby Reception, my live answering service, had that happen where their smaller provider got hacked and I was down without phone service for 3 days. They migrated to AWS because the small player couldn't hack it, and I don't know if they ever came back online. Um,
Yeah.
that's just not a nice place to be. Um,
Yeah, I mean, we haven't given a whole lot of thought to it just yet, because the initial few customers that we bring on, we're just running pilots with them for a couple of months. When they like it, then we'll charge them a subscription. Um,
would it be possible to have it like one of the benefits of having it again? An end customer that would care about this kind of data. That if they offer them, we deploy it locally, you get access to your data, but it's also a bring your own data where somehow, and again, this is me just describing things in ignorance, that the data that they consider proprietary can somehow be added into your widget without necessarily handing you or OpenAI or insert LLM. Like if you were going to sell this to someone who cares about this proprietary data, I don't want it in an AI. The only way to really guarantee that is it has to run an on-premises deployment or at least in a hosted deployment on stuff that you own or is dedicated to you, just like we used to do. Um, and then it's a question of I guess the only tip I could give you is to try to keep track of how many resources, not in terms of tokens. Do you get insight into that? Like you've used this many CPU cycles, this much RAM, this much storage, this much GPU cycles. Does it give you that level of breakdown?
I mean, I could get that. Like Azure and all major cloud providers will expose that as a metric. You just have to figure out how to tie that into a specific user.
Right.
And that I haven't gone into that kind of detail just yet. But right now, I mean, the amount of data and the queries that we're doing is relatively small, so it's not that expensive. My cloud costs are probably like, I don't know, $30 a month right now. Um,
That's and you just described what gave me my biggest levels of frustrations when I was competing against the cloud is that a operating expense, if assuming everything is equal, compared to the upfront capital expenditure required to buy the same thing over a long period of time, the capital one is a no-brainer because the subscription cost is potentially infinite. There is no upper bound. Whereas you can own and depreciate that piece of equipment. And all of its resources are 100% for your use, not, hey, I can get twice the performance out of this local because I did some clever coding, as opposed to I just turned on twice as many virtual metered resources. Um, you can now design more for performance because performance has a cost in the cloud, right? So
Yep.
if you know that you're developing, and again, I have absolutely no idea the kind of machine that would be required, or machines would be required to run your software, might be an interesting exercise to look into. And for what it's worth, I can help with that sort of thing for costing of hardware, because I do that for myself, and I'm happy to do any research or sort of stuff because I'm genuinely curious. Because this, bringing it back to the original, I think that on premises development totally makes sense in the cloud. I wouldn't have you do it any other way. But what should happen is that once you have built your MVP, is that ideally you would be able to migrate your code onto a box of some sort that has resources that are dedicated to the use of your software, which gives you control a little bit more. You can lock it down. You can prevent the customer from mucking about with your stuff. Heck, you could even provide the hardware like we are as part of the solution, make it an appliance. Appliances, I think, are the best, where it's just you buy a box and you turn it on, and the smart tech maybe sets a few things up, and that's it. It's the same thing as the cloud. It's just now there's a box that's in your closet, and oh, by the way, when the internet goes out, it still works.
Yeah, but there are a lot of providers who give. I was talking to somebody at this accelerator thing that I'm at, and that guy is his company is building what is it again? Something a legal tech AI
Oh,
agent. Yeah, and he said that they were initially using AWS, but then AWS started charging them for all kinds of stupid stuff. I don't know what exactly stupid stuff entails here, but
I bet
I guess.
there was a lot of it, and I bet it was individually inexpensive. It was,
Yeah.
how many disk operations do you need? I don't know.
But the thing is that he got so frustrated that he and his team they migrated over to using a like some guy out of I think New Jersey who owns a shop of some kind and
It's a great business name. Some guy from New Jersey.
that's right that's
Nothing says
we should
trust.
call him on and just ask him what that experience has been like for him.
Yeah,
He
that
did
would
that.
be. You can honestly get better service if you call AWS. You personally,
Yeah.
do you think you're going to get to talk to anyone high level? If you have a smaller provider that is still capable of meeting your needs, but will admit that, yeah, we can't do what Amazon does, but we'll give you a dedicated tech. We're a local provider. You can go see our servers. We've been in business for this minute, blah, 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 blah. We're a service provider. We do all these other things.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more value for a smaller company in
Yeah.
that. And that's what CTI, that's where I was 13 years. I was their senior solutions architect. We were the white glove. If you want cheap, buy from CDW. You're not getting the cheapest price, but you are getting a complete package. You're getting services baked in, project management, ongoing support. We have a live dispatcher. We can support you. We can do everything.
Yeah.
We had customers that were doing business with us for like 30 years. They just celebrated their 40th year in business. So they're obviously doing something right.
Yeah.
They're not a multi-billion-dollar company. When I was there, we aspired to be a 10, $20 million company. And I don't know where they are now, but it was always up and to the right. We were always growing. Had a few hundred customers. Quite honest, to be honest, when I was designing the guard tower platform, it was designed for a company literally modeled on a CTI to sell for customers that were modeled on, I designed hundreds of customers' infrastructure to be perfect for them. They have an on-site, few locations, not a lot of users. They're doing stuff locally. They have some hybrid stuff. They have some line of business applications. You would benefit from something like this. And it would be at a price that a company like that could afford. Because if I'm selling it $1 million a box, once again, yeah, there's a few companies that could probably swing that, but most of them, and broad adoption is sort of counted on. Now, this has been fascinating. I miss having you on. We have the deepest conversations, and you tell me so much. I always learn stuff about AI when I talk to you, and I appreciate that.
Well, I hope I'm giving you good information because I'm also learning. Everybody's learning.
Just like an AI, you have confidence, and ergo, I believe you without question. I'm like a project, what am I, a software manager? Yeah. If Vivek says it, it's probably accurate.
Well, sort of.
As far as you know.
Fun. It's been fun. I'll try to make more. I'll try to come on more often. Every week it's just like Friday 11 o'clock and I'm like, oh man, but I got like 50 other things to do.
So, and actually, let's move it somewhere else. Like, I want to open it up. I want to test out my all. I want to, like, maybe we can do a poll or something. Like, what day? And again, we can have more than one of these things. I do have time, and if we're using it to generate content, I would much rather have as much fun as it is to listen to me pontificate on things. I really value when other people get to talk. I genuinely mean that for people that are listening that are skeptical, but
yeah, that I'm sure they don't notice that, but
no, it's unnoticeable. Let's ask the AI.
Of the 18 people who watch,
Yeah, the 18. Oh wow, that many? We're spiked.
or maybe no, or I think that's just the number of views. So maybe we've got one super fan out there who's watching this thing like.
Well, like I know on Scott. Yeah, a lot of the analytics become demoralizing when people aren't watching very much, but it is interesting to see what does. Again, it's fascinating when they turn around. We have 9 subscribers as of right now. So,
Oh, that's nice.
if an in-person group of 9 people showed up every week to listen, that would actually be a small room at like a hotel conference center or something like that. On YouTube, it's pathetic. But oh God, I also have to tell my son when he's watching YouTube videos, make sure you're not logged into my HoCo Cyber Collective because you're training the algorithm, and I don't want that. So
That's funny.
yeah, it is. Well, Vivek, great talking with you. I appreciate you making the time on Friday and keeping us up to date on the stuff. I really value your inputs on this stuff.
Yeah,
Let's figure out a time we can do more, and let's make an effort to try to get the second cohort like on the website and stuff like that, just to our unofficial. We're like the unofficial website of the Howard County, the Howard Cyber
Collective.
Accelerator. Whatever they're calling it. We're this other group that's sort of a part of it.
Cyber Howard Accelerator, I think.
Yeah, that's it. What am I looking at?
All right.
No, you bought a dog picture. Well, thanks everyone for checking in, and Vivek, have a great weekend. Stay warm, and good luck with you and everything. Keep us up to date. I wish you nothing but success, and let me know how I can help because this stuff is fascinating.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And best of luck to you too. Hope things are going fine. We didn't get to talk about Guard Tower this time around. Maybe next time.
Yeah. Well, it's always there. And actually, the one thing I would ask, and we can take it offline, is that I'm looking for, again, with logos, and my business partner, Keith Alexis, I think that you had the opportunity to meet. We have trial uses just to get companies to say, yes, this is a product that I would consider using, because, if we want to have those testimonials, we've gotten a few resellers, and it feels like an avalanche is going to start, and I'm just pushing it. And once it starts, it's going to be crazy. We have so many things queued up. But when my wife and my dad say, hey, when is money going to start rolling in? It's always, we got a lot going on, and it's difficult to say at any point. It's just as frustrating to me. So anyway, it's good talking to you. Thanks everyone who tuned in, and we will catch you next week. Talk to everyone later.
Yep.
Bye now.
Bye.
Dad.
Thank you for listening to the HoCo Cyber Collective Podcast. Stay connected, stay curious, and join us again for our next episode.
Brought to you by the HoCo Cyber Collective.